We're going to start off with a few words from our host, Tommy.
Yep. Thanks, Terry. Hope everybody's enjoying their lunch. Thanks for coming out today. And thanks to the Chamber for having this event here. Wanted to mention, some of you may have heard, but we're kind of reinventing the plate and barrel space. And it's nice to let our colleagues in some Prairie know about what's happening, but it's going to be more of a banquet space. The next time we do this here, for example, it'll be outfitted with AV equipment, and that'll seat about 80 to 90 people. So, and that's kind of exciting, and we've got a lot of events planned, and that's really kind of where we're taking the future of Buck and Honey's is off-premise catering. We're doing a ton of that, and then on-premise banquets and events. So on top of that space, we're actually repurposing a suite upstairs, and it's about a 1,500 square foot suite. It'll seat about 50 people for events. And that'll be, it's gonna be called The Loft, and it's a really cool theme. So more themed dining and for events, and so for whatever it might be, anniversaries, etc. So just wanted to share that with you. Again, thanks for coming out. Hope you have a wonderful time, and hope you're enjoying your lunch. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah. Do we have any new members here today? Anyone who'd be a new member? Please stand and introduce yourself.
Dave Robbins. I'm 2 days a new commercial lending role at the Bank of St. Prairie.
Welcome, Dave. Anyone else? Yes.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Brown. My husband and I, we just actually moved here to Sun Prairie, and we started a company called Prairie Dwelling. We do residential and commercial interior design.
Welcome. Other new members? All right, well, thank you all for coming. The best part of these meetings is seeing you and having you here, so thank you for coming. You're going to look around, you're going to see someone today you don't know. It's a friend you haven't met yet. Don't leave without saying hi to them. This Chamber of Commerce is very friendly, very warm. It's a lot of really nice people, so please enjoy each other. At your table, you're going to see a couple things. You're going to see a flyer for the Spooktacular. Safe place for the kids to come and get a little candy, usually at your business. So an opportunity to participate in that. The other flyer is talking about the mixer at Park Bank coming up. We have that. Okay, those are the two big ones. Community Expo. There should be something on your table about a Community Expo. This is held out at Budweiser, and it gets bigger every year. It's phenomenal. The number of people from the business community that come out there, have a great time together, get a little exposure. Just a great, great event. Today's speaker will give us information on what's happening in our state legislature. Scott Manley is the Vice President of Government Relations for Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. He joined WMC in 2005 after serving for more than 10 years as a policy advisor to the Wisconsin State Senate, where he focused his policy work in areas of environment, natural resources, taxation, and the judiciary. While serving as chief staff to Senator Kathy Sept, Manley has assisted WMC's effort to draft and negotiate the Job Creation Act. Scott serves as a chief lobbyist for WMC and oversees the government relations program by directing a team of lobbyists and policy experts. Together they work with legislatures and state agency officials to advance WMC's agenda to make Wisconsin the most competitive state in the nation for job and business. Scott graduated as a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Please welcome Scott.
Well, thank you very much, Terry. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and join all of you. I often find myself as a speaker at these types of things as, you know, being the last thing in between the audience and lunch, and it's always nice to not be in that position. So I hope you enjoy your meal while I'm speaking, and if you have a question along the way, please feel free to ask it. I'll try and reserve a little bit of time at the end if I can to answer questions, but if there's something you're interested in, please don't hesitate to bring up a question as I go. The main topics that I want to talk about this afternoon, I want to do a little bit of a wrap-up of the 2013-2014 legislative session and talk about some of the issues that were discussed in the legislature that we think are important to businesses. And then take a little bit of a crystal ball look at the 2015-2016 session of the legislature, which will, when the legislature is sworn back in January, they'll tackle a whole new set of issues, and we've certainly got some ideas of what will be discussed and some things that we hope will get discussed in that session. I'll go talk a little bit briefly about our legislative scorecard, as we are now at the end of the 2013-2014 session. We score legislators on their votes on issues that are important to business. So I'll go through that briefly, and then I'll talk about the 2014 election landscape and talk about what we think are some of the key races, both at the top of the ticket and down ballot in the more localized legislative races. Before I begin, though, for those of you who are not familiar with my employer, Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, we were founded in 1911. Originally as the State Manufacturers Association, but we merged with the Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce, which is how we get the name Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. And we represent a little over 3,700 members throughout the state in virtually every sector of the economy. Although a lot of people think of us as the big business lobby, actually the more than half of our members are small businesses or smaller businesses with 50 or fewer employers. And our mission is pretty simple, and it is to make Wisconsin the most competitive state in the nation to do business. And that's what myself and the great team of lobbyists that I get to work with every day strive to do as we're meeting with legislators and agency officials. So I'll jump right into the 2013-2014 legislative session, and in any legislative session, I would argue that the most important bill that passes is the state budget. And it's actually the one bill that has to pass every session. So probably the biggest significance of the state budget is it sets your taxing and spending priorities for the next 2 years. And so something unique happened in 2013, and that is that the legislature started going through the budget exercise with a budgetary surplus in hand, which hadn't happened for quite a while because we had often been dealing with budget deficits. So they took the budget surplus and they were able to do some important things like cut taxes and also invest some additional money in K-12 education. In terms of taxes, there was a across-the-board income tax cut, the magnitude of which was about $650 million. And although it cut every single bracket and actually collapsed 2 brackets down into one, the majority of the tax increase from a magnitude standpoint hits middle income filers. And as I said, I mentioned that one of the brackets was collapsed into one. So now we have, instead of having 5 separate tax brackets, we have 4 separate tax brackets. And you can see what the percentages look like. We still, at having a top bracket at 7.65%, that's still, that puts us in the top 10 for the highest top rate. We also, when you look at the amount of taxes that are collected on a per capita basis, as well as a percentage of personal income, we still remain, unfortunately, in the top 10. These changes will help, and I think ultimately we get out of, if we do nothing else, we'll get out of the top 10 because it takes some time from these tax policy changes to actually hit the books and the statistics. But I think the good news is that we're headed in the right direction from a taxation standpoint. But we, from our perspective, we still have quite a bit of work to do. Beyond that, the legislature funded the phase-in of the manufacturing and agricultural tax credit. We think that's a very important tax reform that was enacted in 2011, and one of the things that we really pushed hard for in the previous budget. We look at the manufacturing sector, which is responsible for about 1/5 of our state's economic output. And we look at the agricultural sector, and whether we're talking about crop production or food processing or dairy or cheese making, those are the two super sectors of Wisconsin's economy. And it's hard for us to imagine a healthy Wisconsin economy without a healthy manufacturing economy and a healthy agricultural economy. So what we asked the legislature to consider doing, and they did, is to create this tax credit for production that takes place in Wisconsin in the manufacturing and agricultural sectors. And we think that when it's fully phased in 2016, this is going to dramatically impact our economic competitiveness in those two sectors. Because although it won't completely eliminate the income tax in those two industries, it'll come close. And so I think we will look at other heavy agricultural and manufacturing intensive states like Texas, for example, and we'll be much more on a competitive level playing field with them if we can basically say, if you're going to produce in this state, you're going to be able to do so not tax-free, but at a tremendous tax advantage. So we're definitely excited about that reform, and we're glad that the legislature continued to fund it. We also saw the research and development tax credit modified so that it will go to pass-through entities like LLCs and S-corps, partnerships and sole proprietorships. Previously, that tax credit, which is intended to stimulate research and development in our state, was available only to corporations organized as a C Corp. And Jason Collada, our tax policy expert, could explain to you in detail why federalizing depreciation is a good thing for Wisconsin taxpayers, but I can't. But he assures me it's a good thing, and that was done in this budget. So I think we look at some of the things that are going on, and they're getting noticed, not just within the state. I've got some news clippings from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and the Capital Times, but Forbes and USA Today. People outside of Wisconsin's borders are taking note of the reforms that are taking place that we think make Wisconsin a more attractive and competitive place to do business. And we think it's a good thing that others are taking note of those changes. Some other tax reforms I want to talk about. In January of this year, there was the budget that was passed in 2013 had already generated a pretty significant budgetary surplus. And the legislature made the decision to return that money back to the taxpayers. And one of the things that was done was that the income tax withholding tables were adjusted for the first time in I think over 10 years, so that we stopped the practice of over withholding from employees. And that's, although it's not an income tax rate cut, it's a change to income tax withholding that results in a direct and immediate increase in paychecks for employees. Reduced the lowest income tax bracket down from 4.4% down to 4% even. That was about a $98 million income tax cut. And then at the technical college property tax levy was backfilled with about $460 million resulting in property tax savings.